Thumbelina. A long time ago, there lived a young woman in a village. She lived very lonely, sending her prayers to God every day in the hope for a child. One night, maybe her wish had been received by God because he had appeared in her dream. The God gave her a flower seed.
Grow this seed with care. Something incredible will happen.
The next morning, when she woke up, she felt the seed in her hand. Soon after, she planted the seed in her garden and gave water every day. Spring came and the seed sprouted up, and soon the sprout blossomed a red bud. She leaned over to the bud and gently kissed it. Then the bud slowly opened up, and there was a very little girl sitting inside. The girl was named Thumbelina because she was small as normal people's thumbs. Thumbelina always sat on a table, singing songs beautifully, in tune with the small birds that visited their gardens. One night, Thumbelina was sleeping on her tiny bed as usual. Then suddenly, a toad entered her room through the window. The toad saw Thumbelina singing beautifully during the day, and he decided to kidnap her and make her marry with his son. The toad swallowed Thumbelina, as well as the bed, whilst she was still sleeping, and took them to his house. The following morning, Thumbelina was very surprised when she woke up, as she found herself in an unfamiliar place. On top of the lotus leaf, there were two big toads grinning at her. "Who are you two? Please, send me back home."
This is my son. Isn't he very handsome?
You are going to be my wife. We are preparing for our wedding ceremony, so please wait a little longer.
The two toads left Thumbelina on the lotus leaf and disappeared into the water. Thumbelina was very upset because she did not want to marry the toad. However, the lotus leaf she was sitting on was surrounded by water. There was no escape. Thumbelina couldn't stand it anymore, and she burst into tears. Then, the fish in the pond, who heard the conversation between Thumbelina and two toads, gathered around Thumbelina. They felt sorry for crying Thumbelina, so they tore the stem of lotus leaf she was sitting on, then carried her to the shore. Thumbelina successfully managed to get away from the toads, but she was very lost. She walked through very tall, bushy lands, ate pollen, and drank water droplets from the leaves to survive. Not long after, the night fell and a chilly breeze started to howl through the forest. Her hands were extremely cold. She cupped her hands together and blew warm, hot air into them. She was inside the hole upon a big tree root, shivering in the freezing cold.
Oh, what are you doing in front of my house?
Someone suddenly asked Thumbelina a question from behind her, and when she turned around, there stood an old mouse lady. The hole was the entrance of their house. "Hi, could you please let me stay here for just one night?"
Oh, I feel sorry for you. You seem hungry too. Come on, get inside.
The old mouse lady invited Thumbelina into her house. Thumbelina warmed herself up in front of the fireplace and got served plenty of food, which made her very full. Then she lied down on the straw bed and went to sleep. Thumbelina helped the old mouse lady with housework, and she decided to live there with her. One day, the old mouse lady suggested to Thumbelina,
Are you interested in marrying a mole who lives in this neighborhood? He is very intelligent and rich, so you will be guaranteed a good life.
Thumbelina was not very keen to get married with him, but she thought of the old mouse lady and said yes. Then they arranged a formal meeting. On the day of meeting, the mole visited Thumbelina. He was wearing a big black glasses and leather coat. Thumbelina sang songs to welcome him. The mole loved her singing, so she invited Thumbelina to his house almost every day. However, Thumbelina could not stand the house he lived, which was situated in a very deep, deep hole in very dark space. One morning in winter, Thumbelina went outside the house to clean the front yard. Then there was a swallow lying down. It seemed like he was freezing in the cold, being unable to fly. He was still breathing, so Thumbelina quickly brought him inside the house and gave him straw mat to keep him warm. She took care of the swallow during all of winter, as well as doing houseworks. Soon, spring had finally arrived. The swallow finally recovered, and he could fly again.
Thank you very much for helping me. I want to invite you to the southern country as a token of my appreciation. The southern country is very warm throughout the year, and the food is plentiful.
Thank you. But the old mouse lady saved my life, and I can't leave her here alone. I'm sorry. The swallow looked very sad, and he said his goodbyes to Thumbelina, then flew off to the southern country alone. Then the summer came, and finally, the mole proposed to Thumbelina.
I'm happy for you, and I feel relieved. Well, you should make your wedding dress this summer because the wedding ceremony is in fall.
Do I have to get married? I want to stay here with you.
Why are you telling me that? Don't be stupid.
Here, get on with your preparation. Thumbelina went back to her room and started to knit her wedding dress. If she marries the mole, he hates the sunlight, so she would need to stay deep underground every day. This means she would never be able to sing with birds and go for a walk under the sun. She got sad thinking about her future and eventually started crying. Finally, it was the wedding ceremony day. Thumbelina went outside to feel the last sunlight. Then she heard a familiar chirping of a bird. It was the swallow. The swallow Thumbelina saved before came back to invite her to the southern country again.
Hey, come with me! I'm here again to take you to my home.
Thank you so much for coming again. But I can't. I don't want to be rude to the old mouse lady, she said with hesitation, because she had really wanted to go with the swallow. Then she heard something.
You don't need to worry about me. You should go wherever you want to go to.
Thumbelina was surprised and turned around. Then she saw the old mouse lady standing there.
I thought it would be helpful to make you marry with him. However, I was just making you suffer.
Thank you. I have finally made my decision. I am not marrying the mole. I want to go to the southern country with the swallow. Goodbye. Take care of yourself.
The days I have spent with you had been fun. You are my precious daughter, wherever you go.
Thumbelina bowed deeply to the old mouse lady and hopped on the back of the swallow and left to the southern country together. The swallow flew for days with Thumbelina on his back, and they had finally arrived to the southern country. The country they had arrived to was filled with beautiful flowers, small birds, and butterflies, and it was really warm. Thumbelina landed on top of a big red flower. There was a boy who was as small as her.
Prince, I brought Thumbelina.
The swallow bowed deeply to the boy. The boy was a flower fairy, and he was a prince of this country. The swallow had brought Thumbelina to this country because the prince had ordered him so. The prince greeted Thumbelina with a smile. Welcome to this country. Please come here. The prince attached fairy wings on Thumbelina's back. Then the two jumped around from a flower to flower as if they were dancing. The two got married and lived happily ever after in this warm southern country.